Three, two, one. Hey, everybody, welcome to another rendition of the Game Addicted Show. You know who I am. And if you don't, my name's Alex. Pleasure to meet you. I'm here covering, again, an early coverage of the rankings. We'll treat this as predictions what the playoff committee is going to rank going to week 13. And my goodness, what a wild weekend it was. For the first time ever this season, I am actually rocking merch from the camera. Hey. There you go. Don't know if you can see that. My UCLA jersey, as you guys know, if you've been following me, I am a massive UCLA fan. Huge victory. And yeah, gonna celebrate it. So let's jump right into these rankings. Before we do, let's pimp out my channel. If those of you guys watching me on YouTube, make sure to head over to my Twitch channel. That is my main platform that you can find in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. That is where I do live coverage. And if you ever want to have discussions on why your team's the best, why they're the worst, make sure to head there and we could talk about it live. And for those of you watching on Twitch, if you ever want to catch any old footage, I archive all my footage over to my YouTube channel, The Game Addicted Show, by the same name as this Twitch channel. And you can find my footage there. But let's jump into it. So, I want to do something a little bit special today. I have, you know what, nobody watches this anyway, so it's fine. I have a dear friend of mine who unfortunately just passed away. He was a massive Nebraska fan. So pretty rough day for me today. And I thought it would be special for you to me to cover Nebraska football first. Now, I wish I could cover under better conditions. Unfortunately, Nebraska is having a bad season, but let's dive into Nebraska here. Nebraska. Ugh, I'm doing this for you, buddy. All right. Struggling. 3-8. Struggling to say the least. What's some positive we could say about Nebraska? Well, here's some positives. One, their loss per game, their VPI. The Big Ten Conference is the second best conference in college football. And the losses that Nebraska has taken, it's been of a brutal schedule. They're more victims of their scheduling more than anything else. I think that if they had a middle-of-the-road schedule, they would be at least be bowl eligible by now. Just jumping into this, yeah, I mean, I think some of the big drops they could, games that they dropped the ball on was like Illinois was a game, they probably should take advantage of. And that's about it. I think that's the only one they missed out on. But, I mean, just look at the schedule. I mean, Oklahoma, come on now. Oklahoma's tough. Michigan State, tough, right? Michigan, brutal. Minnesota's really good. Purdue is giving a lot of teams trouble. Ohio State is in the playoff conversation. And then you have Wisconsin, who's up and rallying. Anybody with the schedule, they're number 9 in strength of schedule, number 22, meaning they're in strength of production, meaning they're facing some of the top offenses and defenses in the nation. So, no, I'm not trying to make an excuse for Nebraska, but there's not very many teams that would fare better with this brutal of a schedule. So, let's see how Nebraska does finish off the season. They got one game left. Let's try to make something of it. But yeah, I think there's some things to like about Nebraska, like they have the number 19 total offense in the nation. Defense is solid. I mean, I don't think Frost necessarily is building the worst team. I just think that, eventually you got to start winning those tough games. But again, with, you have a schedule like this, it's like a snowball effect. Your team starts losing confidence. You play too many tough teams, and you still start snowball out of control. So that's what I'll say about Nebraska. Wishing the best. I love you, buddy. I miss you very much. And I just miss you. So, anyways, thank you guys for letting me do that. Anyways, let's jump into our top 25 for this week. So we'll start off with Utah. Now, Utah, surprisingly, in the AP polls, moved up quite a bit. Moved up to 8 spots to the number 16 spot. Here in the VPI rankings, we actually have Utah all the way down barely to number 25, and here's why. Unfortunately, the Pac-12 is a very, very weak conference this year, right? They're worse than even the American Athletic Conference, and I think even the Mountain West. Yeah, I mean, the ACC. I mean, the Pac-12 is barely better, really, than the Sun Belt, the MAC, and the Conference USA. Like, that's how far down the list the Pac-12 is this season. So for those reasons, the VPI formula has calculated Utah to barely be a top 25 team. So will the playoff committee see that? Will they reward them more? Well, we'll see. If the AP polls are any indicator, it looks like they'll be moving up quite a bit. But at least for the VPI polls, we're saying that Utah is barely deserving of top 25 spot. I understand that win over Oregon was huge, but unfortunately, having a middle of the road strength schedule, having also a middle of the road strength production, that with an 8-3 record, that's just enough to get in top 25. But still plenty of time for them to move up with playing against Colorado and then another big game, most likely against Oregon. I think at this point, Oregon's locked for the North, I think. So facing Oregon again in the Pac-12 championship game. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. But that, may be enough in the tank to, give Utah a shot at a top 10 finish depending who they match up in the bowl game. Moving on to Clemson, a team that a lot of people wrote off, but slowly kind of recovering this season. Yeah, they're not in the playoff conversation, but, playing the ACC, I know the ACC is generally a weak conference. Strength schedule is number 52. That win over Wake Forest really, really helped out that strength schedule. Strength production, 37. They were playing, some pretty tough offenses and defenses out there. But, yeah, it was a nice way to kind of get back into things. They had a shot to recover against like Pittsburgh. NC State was a tough loss. Georgia, of course, number one team in the country. Not an easy game to win. So, yeah, it's nice to see Clemson back in the top 25 here in the VPI formula. I know in the AP polls, they are not ranked. Really? Are they ranked in the playoff committee polls from last week? Let's check that out, guys. No. Interesting. Now, will the committee rank Clemson top 25? I definitely think they should be. I mean, everything on their resume looks really good. I mean, that Wake Forest went a long way for them. So the teams that they lost to are all really good teams too. Yeah, Clemson, maybe a little too underrated, not even rated at all. So that's what we're going to say about the Clemson Tigers still. Good team, glad they're rallying. Good to see that. It's good for college football in general. So we'll see where they finish. They got one game left in the regular season. Texas A&M. So for the SEC, you're wondering how the heck did Texas drop to number 23 even though they won? Here's why. With the VPI formula, we do not reward teams for playing weak strength of schedules, right? So if you're going to come in here, even late in the season, and play Division II school, like an FCS school, you're not going to get away with that. You're going to drop, especially if teams are going to thick, tough parts of the schedule late in the season. You can't come in here and schedule these weaklings and still expect to maintain your spot or even move up in the rankings. Absolutely ridiculous for that to even happen. I know in the AP polls that took place, Texas A&M moved up 2 spots, and the AP polls at number 14. But no, here in the AP polls, the VPI polls, they drop to number 23. That's what you get for scheduling week late in the season. Still a lot to like about Texas A&M. They're 8-3, 39 strength schedule, number 26 strength of production. Defense is stellar. They're just a lot to like about the Aggies. But yeah, that's what you get for scheduling week. You do not get rewarded. You get punished for that. So that's why they drop you in the rankings. So yeah, greatly overrated for pulling something like that. Pittsburgh having a solid win over Virginia, a team I've been advocating for. I think Virginia is better than people think. Virginia sitting at 6-5, puts Pittsburgh at a 9-2 record. Strength of schedule pretty weak. I mean, the ACC again is a pretty weak conference. It doesn't help when you schedule an FCS school and UMass for like non-conference schedule. Western Michigan and Tennessee, do help a bit. But yeah, 119 strength schedule, 81 strength production. That's why Pittsburgh's a lot lower in our rankings than they would be in the playoff committee polls. I know that right now in the AP polls are doing slightly better at number 22. Looks like they didn't move a spot, but yeah, I think that there might be a slight overrated, but I think 20 is ranked number 20 in AP polls, totally a fair position. So the fact that they weren't rewarded for playing such weak strength schedule, even though Virginia I think is a solid school, I think it was handled the right way. We'll see what the committee does there. Wisconsin, keep racking them up. I just finished talking about them with the Nebraska win. Wisconsin really should be praised for what they're doing this season. They have the number 6 toughest strength of schedule, number 18th in strength of production, right? The teams that they lost to have a combined record of 27-6, okay? Penn State, still really good team. Notre Dame, the most underrated team amongst the top 10. Michigan has a good shot to make the playoffs. So yeah, if those are the teams you're losing against and you're going on to beating like Iowa, beating Purdue, even Army, who's having a good season, it's a pretty schedule now. Glad Wisconsin's rallying. So yeah, it does not surprise me at all that the Badgers are playing as well as they are, and we'll see if they could win the last 2 games of the season. Well, I mean, the last game, the regular season, we'll see what the last bowl game. But yeah, lots to like about the White Badgers, or the Badgers. Here we go. One of the most controversial teams I have to cover every week is with Oregon. Oregon, I have to mention this every week, that had no business ever being a top 5 team, let alone a top 10 team. Here in the VPI polls, the highest they can get is up to number 12. And again, the reason for that, even if you don't agree, and remember, I'm a UCLA fan, I'm a Pac-12 homer, they have the worst loss of any one-loss school, right? When they lost against Stanford. Stanford continues to show that they're a worse and worse team as season goes on. And now they go and drop another against Utah. Granted, a great team, right? We're saying top 25 team, but still, look at your strength schedule. The Pac-12 is weak, and again, I'm Pac-12 homer, but I cannot deny how bad the Pac-12 is this season. 101st strength of schedule, 64, solid strength of production, but with that loss to Utah, we dropped Oregon all the way down to number 20, even though that in the AP polls, they dropped down to number 11, dropped number 7 spots, which is ironic that's just about as close as how much they dropped with us, but they were way overrated to begin with. So it's interesting how the AP polls are treating them. We're treating them the same way. We're just saying they should have dropped way more. They're just way too overrated. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Oregon. Wishing them the best. They still have Oregon State, which is not a gimme, and then face Utah again in the Pac-12 title game. We'll see, but I can guarantee you this: their playoff shots are done. So they had no business being in the playoff conversation to begin with, and definitely should be done with it now. Here at the Game of the Show, we respect small schools. You're going to see a lot of small schools with very high rankings, and I have to justify that for you. So let's start first with Appalachian State. Appalachian State has this okay strength schedule, number 76. Not so much okay strength of production at number 80. Total offense, total defense, really good, 22 and 24 respectively. We're ranked in number 19. Had a solid, okay, not a good win at all against Troy. But remember, I always have to point this out every week, especially with the small schools. Wins have value, and you always have to ask yourself in these games, what is the value of a win the Appalachian State gets playing in the Sun Belt Conference versus a win like, let's say, Oregon or Wisconsin? Like, compare to this. We have a score here of 3.86 per game for Appalachian State. That's what the VPI formula calculates, right? Look at Wisconsin. Wisconsin at 4.41. So we're saying that not BYU, the Appalachian State wins are worth less than that of Oregon or Wisconsin. So they have to work harder and win more games in order to be able to have a comparable resume to those teams. And because of that, even though they're sitting 9-2, that's why they're barely etching out those games like teams like Oregon and Wisconsin. But the main reason, though, is that they had to be 9-2 for those teams that are 8-3 and are really closely ranked. So that's the thought process there behind how this is calculated. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree, if you want me to explain that in more depth. But Appalachian State should be a top 25 team. Isn't ranked in the AP polls. I don't think they'll be ranked in the playoff committee polls. That's going to be released on Tuesday. But absolutely should be. And what you'll find with a lot of small schools is, the majority of the top 25 is made up of the Power 5 conferences. The 5 or 6 schools that have that are from smaller conferences, they're diverse. They only make about 5-6 teams amongst the top 25 teams. So you can't say that only teams from Power 5 conferences should be ranked. You got to have one or two from each of the small conferences because, there's going to be some teams that are going to stand out even in weak conferences like the Sun Belt Conference. But that's all we'll say about that. BYU continued to put together a great season. They moved up one spot up to number 13 in the AP polls. We're saying, even though we love the Cougs, a little bit overrated. They beat a pretty weak team against Georgia Southern. They're going to finish off the season against USC. Interesting that USC might be eyeing BYU's head coach. I really don't know much about the USC situation in their hiring process, but that's what I was hearing during this past weekend's game. So BYU putting together a great season. I always have to bring up how such a missed opportunity playing against BYU, playing against Boise State, playing against Baylor, having a chance at the playoff, and just kind of blew it there. So we'll see how the Cougars finish, but still putting together a great season and hope to continue to push forward. Baylor. Now, this one's going to surprise people that I have Baylor so low. And in the AP polls, they're all the way to number 9. And the VPI rankings here, I have them all the way down to number 17. And you're going to get upset why I have them so low and who are some of the teams in front of them. Their strength of schedule is okay. It's 56. They're 9-2. Strength production, a little bit weaker, 72. But they have one loss that's justifiable against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State being 10-1, and then what not so much against TCU. VPI is good. Being in the 4s is good. Loss per game. Index is not too bad, but Baylor a little overrated, and I think it'll be easier to explain more of why they're overrated compared to the teams in front of them than they are just looking at their resume themselves. So let's jump into a few teams. First, Wake Forest. Wake Forest, we have at number 16. The AP polls were a little more cruel to them, dropping them 8 spots all the way down to number 21. Even though they have a weaker strength of schedule than Baylor, the strength of production, the teams they're facing, are some of the top offensive defense in the nation. Their losses are a little bit worse with Clemson and North Carolina combined versus, of course, Oklahoma, who was a top 10 team or still is, I think. We'll see. Is Oklahoma? Yeah, barely back in the top 10. And Clemson, who now we have in top 25, and we'll see if the playoff committee puts them in the top 25. But ultimately, it's just a combination of just having a slightly better VPI per game by Wake Forest, and it is close. It is about 1% difference between Wake Forest and Baylor. But that's one of the teams that's ranked ahead to play Baylor. Jumping into another team that had a terrible weekend was with Michigan State, a team that really surprised me that they struggled as much as they did. Actually, excuse me, guys. I'm going to take one quick break. I'll be right back. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Need to take a quick bathroom break. I'm pretty sure I never do that, but drink a lot of water today. So, moving on to Michigan State. Michigan State just getting the shellacking this weekend against Ohio State. Something I really didn't expect. I think everybody thought that game would be a lot closer. Still a lot to like about the Spartans. Mediocre strength schedule, but the strength production very strong. They're facing some of the top offensive defenses, like Ohio State, who has the number one offense in the nation. So yeah, pretty tough loss for the Spartans, but still having a great season. They're pretty much done with the playoff conversation. Unfortunately, they lost to Purdue, and now Ohio State kind of basically eliminated from that. What's interesting is this defense. Even though they're 9-2, 120th in total defense. I'm sure it hurt a lot losing against Ohio State, but when your defense is that bad and your offense is kind of middle of the road, not a recipe to put you in the playoff conversation. But still having a good season. We are saying they're a little bit overrated. AP Pulse has them at number 12, number 15. Pretty close. Should really split hairs over that. Next up is Houston. Houston, number 19 in the AP polls. We have them at number 14 here. I understand that, it hurts that Houston has 128 strength schedule, 125 strength production. Yes, they lost to, a critical game for them, which was against Texas Tech, but they've racked up 10 straight, and there are a few good wins in there. I mean, we can't understate the win over SMU. The East Carolina game was pretty good for them. So they're sprinkle of good wins, but overall, very weak strength of schedule. But again, wins have value. So we're saying that Houston has a winning percent VPI score of 3.5 for this game, where if you saw a lot of the other big schools, they're in the 4 and 5 range. So they have to work hard, win more games in order to be considered as valuable as bigger name schools that play in tougher conferences. But for now, we have Houston number 14. Let me know what you guys think about that. Do I have that wrong? Again, there's no personal opinion whatsoever on my end. It's strictly data driven. Moving on to number 13 at Iowa. Now, Iowa's starting to get respected a little bit. Still a little disrespect in the polls. Surprisingly, they're number 17. I have them at number 13. I always bring up how it's interesting how Iowa was considered a playoff contender early in the season by the AP polls, and they'll have two losses that aren't bad losses at all. I mean, Wisconsin and Purdue are two really good teams. Purdue, I understand they're 7-4, but they're a dangerous 7-4. But looking at the rest of their schedule, I mean, they only have 3-4 teams that have losing records, and everybody else is either 500 or better. So playing a number 40 strength schedule, which is solid, and number 45 strength production, there's a lot to like about Iowa. So being 9-2. I think really should muster them a higher ranking. I always point out how interesting it is, the whole mantra of defense wins championships, because, Iowa is number 12 total defensively, but no offense whatsoever, but still rocking a 9-2 record. So kind of strange for me, but it works for them. So as long as it works, they keep pushing forward. We'll see what happens for the Hawkeyes going into the last game of their season. Louisiana. I told you guys in week 1, Louisiana is better than you guys think. That was a big win for Texas. Texas being the team that really fell off the map. I was vouching for them, but they sure made me look bad. Louisiana, we have net ranked number 12 in the AP polls. They're ranked number 23. Even though they won, they actually dropped in the rankings, which I find interesting. But especially when they beat a pretty good team with Liberty. I mean, Liberty is 7-4, so I really don't understand the need for the drop unless they just think that there are some teams ahead of them that are more deserving. I don't know. I understand that their strength schedule is really weak, 126. I understand that the strength production is really weak, 121. But 10-1 is hard to do, and these games have value. So they should add up. And we're saying, yeah, they're one of the worst, 10-1 teams, but they're still should be ranked a little bit higher. Really surprises me that Louisiana is ranked as low as they are. Ole Miss at number 11. Now we're starting to get a little closer to what the AP polls have. AP polls have Ole Miss at number 8. Ugh, not a surprise there. Always got to give ACC the benefit of the doubt, but it's fine. They have a stellar offense. Lane Kiffin's doing something. Even though I don't like the guy, he's doing something right over there. Defense really poor, but what's interesting here is that the strength of schedule, and you'll see this with a few SEC teams, middle of the road, but the strength of production, meaning the offenses and defenses they're facing and their opponents are facing, are some of the best in the nation at number 9. So there's no gimme here games. Texas A&M's only losses are to a mediocre Auburn and a 10-1 Alabama team, but still putting together a great season. It's just I think that they got hurt a little bit as well by playing against Vanderbilt, who is 2-9. But yeah, it gets a little tight when getting to the top 10 spots here, as you'll see. But I'm not going to split too many hairs with what the differentiation between the AP polls and what I have. So the playoff committee will probably be, pretty close to more of the AP polls have. Now, here's a big shocker for a lot of you guys. San Diego State, who is only ranked number 22 in the AP polls, I have ranked all the way up to number 10. I get that their strength schedule is 124. I get their strength production also week 105. I get that their victory per game, the index for that is 3.5, but their wins have to have value, and even though their wins are not as valuable as beginning schools, they still add up at 10-1 record. Yeah, should be a top 10 team. Do I think compared to other top 10 teams they would beat them? No, but this model is based off what you've accomplished, and for what they've accomplished this season, they deserve to be a top 10 team, strictly based on their resume and their accomplishments. So that's my thought of San Diego State, State. Maybe I'm getting hungry. And best of luck to Brady Hoke in the game. Moving on to number 9, I'm kind of surprised it was made. Maybe I'm just a little out of it. I don't know why Iowa State was such a big win for Oklahoma. A lot of the analysts on Fox and ESPN seem to be covering that, but yeah, still great win. The only loss they have is to a 9-2 Baylor team, so a really good Baylor team, who we just covered a little bit earlier. But the thing about Oklahoma is that their strength of schedule is still really, really weak, 115. Strength production is 66. They were punished hard here with us, and with the AP polls, they were punished just as hard, it looks like. Even though they won, now they're up 2 spots there. Number 10, we have number 9. Yeah, so looks like the thought process is pretty similar between myself and the AP polls. So not too much to say there. Moving on to number 8 with Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State ranked at number 7. So again, we're getting really close to what the AP polls have and what I have here. An okay, not great strength of schedule. Same thing I could say about strength of production. Only losses to a 6-5 Iowa team. But, analysts keep raving how great Iowa really is, that they're just not having the season they should be. So maybe it wasn't such a bad loss anyways. But that is Oklahoma State. Moving on to number 7, a controversial pick with Alabama. Now, Alabama is ranked number 2 in the college football playoff, number 3 in the AP polls. I have them here at number 7. And the thing I have to keep bringing up, even though the Arkansas win was a great win for them, the rest of the resume is not that great. 79th strength of schedule. What is interesting, though, is that they are still, and we've said this a few other SEC teams, they're playing some of the best offenses and defenses in the nation. But even though you play those, your record still has to account for something. So even though Arkansas was a good win, the way the SEC works with their win distribution of playing 4 non-conference games versus every other conference, with the exception of the ACC playing 3 game, non-conference schedule. It gives Alabama the ability to schedule weak teams like last week New Mexico State to help boost their record and give their appearance of being a stronger team. But there's not much in Alabama to justify such a high ranking because I understand that Texas A&M loss wasn't the worst thing in the world. Texas A&M is having a great season. They shouldn't be rewarded for playing such a mediocre to bad schedule. Again, top-notch offensive defense still. Mediocre to bad strength schedule. And this is where you guys are going to absolutely murder me because I just finished telling you why Alabama shouldn't be top 2 or 3 team. Now, here's why UTSA should be a top or number 6 in the nation. They're finally getting a little bit of love. I know in the AP polls, they're ranked number 15. Let's look at the conference playoffs because I don't think they respect them at all. Number 22. Yeah, that's some BS. Because they went in there, it beat UAB. UAB was okay, 74. I understand that their strength schedule 129th out of 130. Strength production, same thing, 116th out of 130. But that's how the cookie crumbles. UTSA continues to rack up wins. I understand the confusion, why you would have such a team high. We're not saying they're better than Alabama. We're not saying they're better than Ohio State or Michigan or any of those teams. We're just saying, for stuff of what they've accomplished and the teams they beat, they do deserve not only to be top 25, but a top 10 team. That's all we're trying to say here. Debate with me. Debate with me in the comments if you'd like. Moving on to Ohio State. Now, you would think that this game would elevate Ohio State to be as high as they are, like in the AP polls. Nobody even move higher into the playoff committee polls. But right now, Ohio State sits at number 4 in the playoff committee. We'll see what they released. Release on Tuesday. Excuse me. But that win over Michigan State, that was really convincing, should move them up. But we're saying that it's so tight in our top 5 spots that there really isn't much place to move. Even though that was a great win, victory per game index is really good. Lame loss per game is not really that bad because your only loss is to Oregon. Again, Oregon being very overrated, I think hurts them. But Ohio State, number 1 offense in the nation, number 46 defense in the nation. 4.32 victory per game index and 3.5 loss per game index. So a lot to like about Ohio State. They just got to take care of business against Michigan, and they're basically in. And we'll see who they face in the Big Ten championship game. But for now, Ohio State looking really great. Might surprise you they're not ranked number 3, but let's not split hairs. I think that there's a lot to like about Ohio State. Moving on to number 4, and that's with Michigan. Michigan ranked number 6, so a little bit of difference there between me and the AP polls. Michigan having a 10-1 season, having a solid strength schedule, pretty good, actually really good strength production. Only has 1 loss, and it's not a bad loss at all, losing to Michigan State, who's 9-2. So, Ohio State still in the playoff conversation. We'll see. We've really seen what's going to happen at their rivalry game next week. Or, this week, technically. Cincinnati. I like to use Cincinnati as an example of if you respect this team, you have to respect these other teams because I understand that they beat Notre Dame. Yes, that was a huge win for them. Strength schedule still really, really weak, 123. Strength production, 115. I think that these schools have a place in either the playoff or the I lost my train of thought. Just have a chance at the playoff, but comparing their resume to a lot of their teams, they're just racking up wins against weaker teams, and because of that, once we get into either the championship game or last game of the season, you're going to see some shifting around. But for now, we have Cincinnati at number 3 in the nation. Number 2, the most overrated team in college football, in my opinion. They're getting better. Notre Dame's moved up number 5. I think they're getting close to the playoff conversation. They have number 22 strength schedule, number 7 on offense, 4.5 victory production index per game, and 2.53 for loss production index per game. So, meaning that the value of these wins are really high. They don't have an FCS school in their records, so that definitely should help. Their only loss is to an undefeated Cincinnati team. But other than that, it's been all gravy for Notre Dame, and I seriously think they should be ranked as a top 2 or 3 team. Just one man's opinion. And last but not least, the juggernaut that is Georgia. What more can I say about Georgia that I already haven't? Yes, they had pretty much a bye week against a really weak opponent, and I think that's going to hurt their PPI score, but they're still up by quite a bit compared to everybody else on this list. Strength schedule, middle of the road, 64. Strength production, really good at 29. Undefeated. Number 1 defense in the nation. Just so far ahead of everybody else that really doesn't hurt them to play Division II schools. So, definitely doesn't maintain their spot. And I'm going to throw in a little bonus team because UCLA beat USC. We're going to cover my favorite team because I'm a homer. UCLA putting together a solid season, really recovering. There are some concerns. I've seen the stat that in the years that Chip Kelly has been at UCLA has only been 2 teams with winning records, and it is a little concerning when you have this game that passed this past weekend where USC just did everything possible to lose that game with their penalties. Just really undisciplined, but being a rivalry game for UCLA to go on there and win big, it was huge for them. Rankings, not anywhere close to being a top 25 team anytime soon. They still have Cal, and if they were to beat that, I expect their ranking to move up, a few spots, maybe to like number 35 at best. But we'll see how the AP poll over the committee polls treat UCLA moving forward, but they're already officially disqualified for the conference title game. So all we got left is taking care of your business against Cal. Victory production index, not bad. Same thing with loss production index. Strength of schedule, 59, good middle of the road. And strength production, 54. A lot to like. UCLA has number 31 offense in the nation, but defense is struggling. And I think that someone pointed out in the interview, I think it was a week or 2 ago, with Chip Kelly, they pointed out that UCLA is only really good at stopping the run against teams that are not in the top 70 or 75. So, considering how bad USC was on the run, that's why I think they were able to stop them. But when UCLA faces good teams like Utah or Oregon that run the ball, it's going to make it tough for them. But anyways, guys, that is it for this week. College football playoff rankings. I guess our predictions for the playoff committee polls. I want to thank you guys all for stopping by. If you guys are interested in future videos, consider giving me a follow, and we could debate those things live, have live discussions on those topics. We are coming to an end here. Next week is going to be the end of the regular season for 99.9 teams. I know that there's the famous Army-Navy game. Then we jump into, of course, our conference title games, leading into the bowl games. So not very much to cover left in the season. It's coming to an end, but it's been a great season. I love that I moved over to Twitch and being able to do this here. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys all next time. Have a good night, everybody.